Everyone. Today we talk about the what is trigger inside in SQL. Okay, so let's start with simplify and smaller parts. So let's take first topic. What is trigger? So the trigger is a special type of stored procedure. Okay, that automatically runs. That's it. This is only that feature. So when a specific event happen in a table, okay, it automatically execute the database. Okay, so you do not need to you don't need to move manually. Okay, so the next questions come when does trigger run? So a trigger runs when something have insert, update, and delete happens on a table. This type of trigger they have happened. Okay, so let's take a simple example. Suppose we have employee table. Okay, so when a new employee added, we want to log another table. Okay, that is where trigger is useful. Okay, so let's take example some like create trigger, the name, trigger underscore after insert employee, then after insert on employee. Okay, then what we do for each row they have insert into employee log, employee ID, action, the values, new ID, new ID, and insert trade. That happened inside. Okay, so what happened? So when a new record inserted into employee, the trigger automatically inserted a new record into employee log. So you do dot. So we don't need to call that manually. Okay. So let's take some types of trigger. Okay. So the trigger mainly they have two types. So the first is before trigger. This is run before insert and delete typing. Okay. So second is after trigger. Run run after insert and delete. Okay. So in SQL we usually use after inside add-on instead of. Okay. So let's take a real world use case. Okay. So trigger are used for mainly audit login, manually maintaining history, enforce business rule, okay, or preventing invalid operation. Okay, and also update related tables automatically. This type of example we take if someone delete order, what we can log who deleted it. This is some scenarios have happened. Okay, let's take some important concept. Inside trigger we use in SQL Server inserted table and deleted table. In MySQL they have new and old. These holds affected raw data. Okay, so let's check examples on in SQL Server. We're taking so they have some code like create trigger, trg underscore update audit. So when happen on employee after update. Okay, so let's take as begin inside the insert into audit table. The same accepts an employee ID, updated date. Inside the field some select ID and get date from inserted and then end it. So here is instant inserted content new updated value. Okay, so they have some advantage and disadvantage. Take so first it advantage check. So automatically execute. They have enforce rule and force at database level. Okay, and improve data consistency. Okay, let's take time. They have also disadvantage. So first is hard to debug. Second is hidden logic. And can affect performance. And can create unexpected side effect. So we use carefully. Okay. So let's take some point. A trigger is a database that automatically execute in response of delete, insert, update, and delete. Okay. Event happen on table. Okay, so this is about some report. Let's take some final advice. The trigger are powerful, but short, but should not replace application logic completely. Using them, auditing, data integrity, security rule, not for heavy business logic. Okay, that's it about it. Thank you. Okay, let's take a brief about everything. So, what is trigger? So, the trigger is a special type of stored procedure that automatically runs when a specific event happens in table. It automatically executes by the database. You do not need to run manually. So, when does trigger runs? A trigger run when insert, update, and delete happens on a table. The simple example, suppose we have employee table, and when a new employee added, we want to log another table. So that was that way trigger is useful. So let's say create trigger underscore after insert employee. After insert employee, for each row insert into employee log employee ID action with value new.id inserted. When what happened? When the new record inserted into employee, trigger automatically inserted a new record into employee. You did not call manually. So okay, so let's take type of trigger. Trigger mainly have two types: before trigger and after trigger. In SQL Server, we usually use dot after, dot instant of. Real world use case. So trigger are used for audit login, maintaining history, enforce business rule, preventing invalid operations, updating related table automatically. Example: if some if someone delete a order, we can log who deleted. So, like important concept. Inside a trigger we use in SQL Server insert a table, detailed table. In MySQL, use new and old. This hold affected data. Example in SQL Server, create trigger trg underscore updated audit on employee after update as begin. Insert into audit log table. Employee ID updated date. Select ID get date from inserted and here dot inserted content new update value. So let's take advantage. Advantage have automatically run, enforce rule at database level, import data consistency, improve data consistency. So let's check disadvantage. First, it's hard to debug and they have hidden logic, can affect performance and can create unexpected side effect. So use carefully. Let's take define. A trigger is a database object that automatically executes in response of insert, update, delete. Event happen on table. Final advice: triggers are powerful but should not replace application logic completely. Use them auditing, data integrity, security tool, not for heavy business logic. That is what. Thank you.